Hi, welcome to episode 3 of my video diary on mobile learning, which this week is all about the use of videos in my lecture. In last week's lecture we reached a point where I needed to show how to write web programs using a framework. So this was essential technical information, the kind of information that's fairly dry, fairly prescriptive, but necessary before you can move on to the more exciting things. For example, you have to load this bit of the program here before you can use it there. You have to pass data in a particular format here before, in order to use it in another particular format over there. It's not very exciting, but it is fairly detailed, and the students need to grasp this detail in order to move on and progress to, as I said, the exciting stuff, building fairly meaningful web applications using this framework. In the past, I've used slides to put across this information. This year I decided to see what it would be like to use videos, and in particular the videos are of live coding sessions, so videos of me writing code. And the way that I recorded the videos was to use QuickTime Player on the Mac to record the screen, so it's capturing the coding as I'm writing it. Because there were 3 bits of coding to be done to use the framework, I had decided to create 3 videos, one for each section. And I also decided to use a particular app to show the videos. Right, so this is one of the videos that I made to show in the class, and it's a video of me coding using the web framework that I'm teaching in class, and this is being recorded using a screen capture software. You see the text in grey, program comments, and I'm using these as a kind of a subtitle track to explain to the students what I'm doing at that point in the program. And I think this is useful because it means that when they play it back later, they've got an explanation of what they're seeing without there being an audio track to play. So if they're in a lab, for example, they're not going to disturb the people around them. So this next bit that you're going to see, this next clip, is of me using that video in the classroom, playing the video and narrating it. I'm using ExplainEverything as the video player on the projector screen, because this allows me to annotate the video as we're going along. And what I wanted to do with the annotations was draw the students' attention to particular lines of code on the screen. And at one point, because the explanation of a particular line of code took rather long, I paused the video to be able to get more time to talk about it. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, there's a bit here that I ought to explain. Let me just pause the video a second. Okay. Well, the bit that I've circled there is the hidden input fields. And I've set the value of the hidden input field to some variable called ID. Oops. That bit there. My intention here is I need some way of identifying to the controller who this person actually is. The user's going to make it. Using ExplainEverything was interesting. It was useful to be able to highlight particular things on the screen as the video was playing, but on the other hand it was fiddly. The video that you've just seen is actually 2 clips. One at the beginning where I'm setting up the video to show and explain everything, and one a bit further on when I'm actually using it and drawing around particular things on the screen. You see, after the video first loads, it doesn't occupy the whole of the central pane inside the ExplainEverything window. So I tried to resize it so that the text in the video was a bit clearer. But you could see that when you resize things and explain everything, it doesn't resize very smoothly, and the angle of orientation changes, so that was a bit awkward. You also really have to pay attention to what you're doing as you're playing the video and annotating it live. First of all, if you want to clear the annotations, there's an undo button, but it only undoes one annotation at a time. So if you've drawn several circles or lines, you have to press the redo button several times. There isn't a clear everything from the screen option that not one that I could find. Also, just the effort of talking and coordinating playing or pausing the video together with annotations requires quite a lot of concentration. So it was heavy work doing it this way and live in the lecture. Anyway, that's the first time in 15 years of lecturing I've actually seen myself give a lecture, and watching the video myself is a slightly disturbing experience. There was also a technical glitch on the iPad during the lecture, which I think is connected partially to using ExplainEverything. While using PowerPoint to show the slides, I became aware after a few minutes that the image on the screen had frozen, although the slides on the iPad itself are still moving. So the slide on the projector was several slides behind where I was on the iPad, and this happened 3 separate times. And closing the PowerPoint and opening it again, or ejecting it from memory, neither of those two options worked. The only thing that seemed to work was actually restarting the iPad. So the first time I did a hard reboot. The second and third times I simply restarted the iPad. So I suspect this is really a memory issue. What you're looking at now is a screenshot from an app on the iPad that monitors memory usage, and you can see on the bottom half of the screen, just above the adverts, the memory usage. This is after ExplainEverything is loaded and it's been playing a video with some annotations, and also PowerPoint is loaded as well, along with the usual apps that are in the background. And you can see that there's only about 61 megabytes of free memory left at this point. This is the memory usage after ExplainEverything has been ejected from memory. And what we've got is at least around about 100 megabytes has been freed by ejecting ExplainEverything. So ExplainEverything itself is a very, very memory-hungry app, which is understandable given what it's trying to do. But obviously, if you've got other apps in the background as well, like big PowerPoint files, even having the App Store open, which uses up a fair bit of memory itself, all of these reduce the amount of free memory available. So I suspect, and this is only a suspicion, that showing the videos and using PowerPoint, which by the way was a big presentation with quite a lot of images embedded in it, were just too much for the iPad and used up almost all the free RAM on the device. And I think in future what I'll do is that if I'm going to show videos and slides in the same lecture, make sure all the other apps on the iPad are ejected to make sure there's enough free RAM to use both applications. What about feedback afterwards? Well, I used Padlet again to get comments after the lecture. The students who left feedback seemed to like the videos, and definitely in the tutorial afterwards, I saw a lot of students playing one of the videos to help them with one of the exercises in the lab. I think though that the lecture relied too much on videos. In total there were about half an hour of video playback time, and definitely by the end of the lecture there was this sense of restlessness in the class. It may also have been because they didn't get a proper break in the 2-hour session. So I think pacing is definitely an issue. But I think that in future I'll restrict the use of videos in the lecture. So there may be sort of 5-10 minutes at most of the video, but I'll make others for use outside of the lecture. I think that really is the best option in future. The videos were actually quite hard work to make. As I mentioned earlier, I recorded the screen on my Mac using QuickTime Player of me coding, and you saw in the video that I was using comments in the code to actually act as a kind of a subtitle track. That's quite useful, I think, and it's an idea I got from watching a programming video on YouTube, and it means that when they're being played back, particularly in the lab, there isn't a kind of audio track to disturb students sitting nearby. So I think that's useful. Once I'd made the videos, and that itself was quite awkward because, for example, one video took me about 5 attempts to get right, even though I'd already written the code and printed it off to act as a kind of a script. Then I had to move them from the Mac to the iPad to use with ExplainEverything, and the way that I did that was upload them from the Mac to Dropbox and then download them from Dropbox to the iPad. But the upload process for this half an hour's worth of video took about an hour, so it was an hour to upload them to Dropbox, but considerably quicker to download them onto the iPad. I've put all the videos onto YouTube. So far they haven't had many visits, so I don't think the students have been using them much in the week that followed. So, but we'll see. It's still fairly early days, and I suspect that as they get closer to doing their coursework, their first assignment, those videos will be played a lot more often. So that's it for this week. If you've got any comments, please use the comments box below the video, or feel free to email me at my university email address. And see you next week.